Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. I know, guys. Why are you guys switching locations so much? I don't know. It's time.
Because we can't let ourselves get too comfortable. Because the moment you get comfortable, you get complacent. The moment you get complacent, you don't grow.
What he said. Go ahead.
As you already know, my name is Josh, reppin' GT.
My name is Deandra.
It's your boy Cam, and this is Takeover.
Yo, hey champ. Yo, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Poker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need a couple.
So, there's been a lot of debate in the in NBA circles for really eons about who the best player in the league is year by year by year. But the biggest debate is going on right now for this year because ESPN and Sports Illustrated both just dropped their top 100s list. Cam, Deandra, who's the best player in the NBA right now? Who wears the crown?
So, I know he said he's the hunter, but I believe that Giannis is the best player in the league as of right now because he was always in that conversation, but he had the MVPs, he had the Defensive Player of the Year, and the only thing he needed was to go further into the playoffs. No one even said he needed to win a championship per se, but he did win the championship. And when you look at his performance in the playoffs and the finals as a whole, he really had a historical performance on both ends of the court, and he just completely exuded dominance. And all of the criticisms that were put against Giannis, he overcame them in the finals and the playoffs. One criticism against him was that he wasn't a closer, but Giannis was hitting clutch shots in the finals. And throughout the finals in the fourth quarter, he hit 20 for 28 from the field, and he scored 50 points on 71% shooting. And another knock on him was his free throws, and he converted 17 of 19 free throws in Game 6. So over the last 3 years, Giannis has really been the most dominant player, and if not the most dominant player, one of the most dominant players in the league. And in the finals, he had arguably the greatest game of all time in the NBA Finals. And in the most important game of his career, he was able to hit mid-range shots. He was able to hit his free throws, and he was able to be a playmaker when the double teams came to him. 3 things that he really needs to improve on, especially when you look back against the series against Miami and the Raptors. And he was really just consistently performing on both ends of the court throughout the playoffs and the finals. And being that we're in an era with shooting and spacing and super teams, the Milwaukee Bucks were able to win a championship while having the worst shooting percentage. And they did that because they had a really good defense and they were able to impose their will in the paint. And a huge component of that is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that's why I think he's the best player.
Deandra, I'm going to respectfully disagree. I have grown accustomed to being called a couple of things offset. Kind of goes to the tune of LeBron sexual. He's too much of a LeBron fan. There's videos. They say it was me in the car saying, "Who's Michael Jordan? LeBron James."
I believe you said Faux.
Play a video, man. LeBron James is still the best player in the league. And if you don't think so, I don't think you're watching the tape, because he's continually asked to do more than any other player playing. When you look at Giannis, of course, Giannis can score. And Giannis is a two-way player. He can play defense as well. But there are holes in Giannis' offensive game. As great as Giannis is, he's not a perimeter player, and he's not a facilitator as well. He isn't asked to do as much as LeBron James. LeBron James is going to be the primary playmaker. He can score. He is the closer. He's going to rebound. He can play defense when he needs to. I'm not going to say he always does, because sometimes he doesn't. And there are almost 0 holes in his game in year 19. LeBron James missed 35 games last season, and we all know Kevin Durant as probably the greatest scorer in the league right now. And Kevin Durant only outscored LeBron James by 2 points, and LeBron James missed 10 more games than Kevin Durant. He's coming off of a season where he averaged 25, 7, and 7, missed 35 games, and shot 51% from the field. And when he was healthy, and when him and AD were in motion, the Lakers were a top 3 team in the Western Conference. And it really comes down to this to me. If we're picking players to go into a Game 7 with, and you're going to tell me you're going to pick Giannis over LeBron James, I'd say you're crazy, because LeBron James has shown time after time that when it really matters, he's going to be the guy you can depend on. And he's shown that by the record of being 6-2 in Game 7 and averaging 35, 10, and 5 in those Game 7s. So LeBron James is still the best player in the league.
As great as that argument was, Cam, we're not talking about who we're going into a Game 7 with. We're talking about who the best player in the game is night in and night out. It doesn't necessarily involve a lot of Game 7s. It involves a lot of dog day games in March and April when you're tired and your knees hurt and your shoulder hurts and you got to buckle down. And the fact of the matter is, basketball involves 2 ends. It involves offense and defense. And if I'm picking the best player in the league, I'm picking somebody who I think you have to game plan for on both sides. You got to worry about them when they're on offense, and you got to worry about them when they're on defense.
Is there a game plan for LeBron James?
Don't go away. Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me get to the end of my point.
Go ahead.
You have to game plan for Giannis Antetokounmpo on both sides. You have to game plan for LeBron. There's really no true way to stop him. He's still great at 37. You don't got to worry about him on defense. Half the time, he's not even going to close out, let alone lock down one-on-one.
Really?
He'll play maybe late in games sometimes, but realistically, he's going to coast. Giannis doesn't coast, and that's why Giannis is the best in the league. Because Giannis is coming off a season where he just put up 28, 11, and 6 with 1.2 steals and 1.2 blocks on 56.9% shooting from the field, and he's still calling himself the Hunter. He is hungry, and that's the kind of guy that I think is the best player because he's gotten all the success. He reached the pinnacle. He has done everything you can do in an NBA career, and he's only 26, and yet he is still looking at himself as a guy that can continue to improve. Are there holes in his game? Absolutely. He's not a great shooter. You know, remember, LeBron wasn't a great shooter for most of his career. He's a little one-dimensional. LeBron was relatively one-dimensional for a little part of his career. He really still kind of is in some cases.
One-dimensional?
He drives, he bullies people, and just goes to his right hand.
Really?
He's got a little
he
bit
hasn't
more
been an elite passer his whole career?
Oh, he's an elite passer. I'm talking about his scoring abilities.
So he couldn't shoot at all? LeBron had no mid-range game? LeBron couldn't hit a 3?
LeBron, at a certain point, no, he did not. He got better with time, and he's gotten to the point where he's at least passable. He was at a certain point. I'm not saying he always was. I'm saying at a certain point he was relatively.
Like in the first one.
Anyway,
okay.
There are other questions for other people. Will KD stay healthy? Is LeBron still that guy? Because you brought up the injuries. We have to talk about those injuries. LeBron James, when he was younger, never got hurt. He never missed games. But now we've had 2 seasons out of the past 3 where he's missed a significant amount of time with soft tissue injuries. That's important. And I don't think we're talking about that enough. And because of that, I don't think LeBron is on top of the mountain anymore. I think it is Giannis Antetokounmpo for the simple fact of he doesn't really miss games. He's never missed more than 10 games in a season. And you have to game plan for him on both sides because he is a reigning defensive player. He is not reigning. He is a defensive player of the year. He's a former MVP. And there are certain things that he does in a basketball court that just nobody else does.
But game plans have worked versus Giannis. No game plan works for someone who's a pass-first player but can still give you 25 points a game. That's my point about LeBron James, period. And as far as you saying he's the king of the hill, I'm not sure he's better than Kevin Durant right now. I mean, honestly, Kevin Durant was, maybe a shoe size away from taking Giannis out of the playoffs without his 2 co-stars, with Harris missing all those jump shots. How sure are you? That's my question.
If we're going to play the what-if game, there's plenty of stuff we can do there, but we're not going to because what happened is he did have that toe tip on the line. Giannis did take care of business in overtime. Then they took care of business against the Hawks, and then they took care of business in the finals, where Giannis was putting up 50 points a game.
He bought up.
All I'm saying is, and if game plans don't work against LeBron James, how come he's 4-6 in the finals?
Well, because he's been jumped nearly every time. You're gonna count those finals?
He wasn't jumped by the Mavericks. He wasn't jumped by the Spurs. Sure.
But we're not talking about his past. We're talking about right now. So what about the playoff exits from Giannis from Miami and Toronto?
Hey, those were things, but he grew. He grew.
Okay, but it's not about.
We're talking about right now.
Exactly. We're talking about right now.
I'm just saying, but if we're talking about right now, then your game plans don't matter because right now there ain't no game plan for Giannis.
So we're talking about right now when we have to take in consideration the season that just passed.
Sure. Yeah.
So taking that LeBron was injured and out, I think it would be fair to say that Giannis is the best because
he still showed up in the season. Is what I'm saying.
If I'm taking one player, if I'm taking half a year,
if we're going off of right now, but having off of what you said, Josh, about looking at someone that's on both sides of the court, that plays on both sides of the court. When you look at how Giannis played in the finals, like I said, he played so consistently on both sides. He was getting chased down blocks, but he was also making a heavy impact on the offensive side of the ball. Is that something that you could see LeBron doing at 36 years old right now? 37.
Yes. He's that.
Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Not that holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need a couple.